How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with The Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about The Nice House on the Lake, book number 8 from DC's Black Label. This is the second issue back after the first 6 issues. They took a little break, and now we're getting the swing of essentially the second and looks like final act. And let's go ahead and take a look at the opening credits. I'll go ahead and flip to the double-page credit spread because it's pretty cool. There's The Nice House on the Lake, and we can see written by James Tynion IV, art and cover by Alvaro Martinez Bueno, and both of them are listed as co-creators. And after that, let's take a look at this really nice cover here. Once again, one of the best parts about the series is these really nice covers for Nice House on the Lake. A character portrait of the one you're going to be reading from, and they're all really dark and creepy and look like they were hanging out in the dark and someone took like a flash bulb style picture. But you see here the snow has gotten into the house and you see these footprints, and these come over here and she is just sitting in this snow-covered living room. Really, really interesting. I really do love it. And we can see the symbol here, the symbol with the clock on it. We only have 2 more of these left, but I think we skipped Nora's, and there'll probably be a Walter symbol at the end. So, a little more than 2 left. And if we flip to the back, remember that was the clock. Well, now thanks to this new series, we can go to our handy-dandy character chart and find the character with the clock, and that is the consultant, Sarah Rance. So, Sarah is going to be our main character this time. Also, they did clear something up in this issue. What's his name? Reggie, who's the other artist, his symbol is the same painter's palette, but it's flipped, where the hand, the thumb hole is on the other side. So I do like that they did clear that up, and they do acknowledge, hey, what's up with the fact that we have 2 artists now? That's kind of weird. But anyway, this book is a little bit more of a talk-heavy issue, you know, and it does process a lot of what needs to be going on, and it does introduce, you know, more of the mystery element. And there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens, even though this isn't the biggest, craziest issue, and there's not a ton of, like, bombshells. You can definitely see things going into their place, and you're like, okay, that's definitely gonna mean something later on, and there is some pretty interesting stuff here. So yeah, more of a talky issue, not the biggest thing ever, but still pretty interesting. Nice House is always pretty interesting, and it does leave me wondering a few things, and it is kind of prompting a question that I talked about briefly last time. Without further ado, let's take a little bit of a look at the story. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to take a look inside this and analyze the book a little bit, so we'll be avoiding the end bits. Anyway, we open up in the Flame World, as always, with Sarah running, and she's talking about how Walter would get to know people, but they would often disappoint him, and someone he was really big into a few weeks ago would, you know, he would start talking bad about. And we jump to the scene where he's leaving Sarah's birthday party, and she goes to catch up with him, and she's like, I thought you liked parties, and he's like, I only like parties when they're with people I like, and I don't necessarily like everyone. I can only have so many people, which of course now we know is him talking about in the nice house. But she goes, what do you mean you can only have so many people? And goes, I can only care about, I can only have a relationship with so many people, and when I get to know more people, I kind of have to bump some of the more disappointing ones off my list. So they kind of make a joke about his list, like, oh, you don't like that person anymore, you're off the list. And then later on she's like, and then I realized that he meant the list of saving people and not just a friend list. But he does, Sarah does talk about Ryan, and says, hey, I thought Ryan was off your list. Why did she get invited? So, you know how in the first issue, Ryan says, I hung out with this guy for a little bit, and then we didn't really hang out anymore, and I got this invitation. So she is drawing it to attention. Why is Ryan here? They have an artist, and if she had fallen off the list, why did she get invited? And they are starting to pose those questions more. And we see Sarah's drawing all the symbols in this tunnel. So I think that is going to be a bigger thing. Is it going to start to ask more about Ryan? And that was sort of the thing, is I really liked Ryan as a character. You know, you introduce her in the first book, but the first book was so much introduction to this plot. We had to learn all the characters' names in the first book. We didn't really get to know Ryan too much, and she got kind of like a catch-up page every issue. But this book, they do actually focus on Ryan a whole lot more. And also, the shed. This is the new building they made. And they actually start to use these architecture pages as sort of a transition between scenes in this issue, and I really do like that. So this is the shed which they do build, and everybody's making drawings talking about buildings that they would like, and they don't get the buildings in this issue, but I kind of wonder, are they going to just litter the landscape with a whole bunch of buildings or something? But anyway, we see Sarah wake up, and everybody is outside the window talking about the new shed, which is going to be their war room, and it did work, and everybody's super happy about it. And they start to kind of talk about what to do, and Ryan walks in, and she goes, oh yeah, great thinking, Walter. And Walter kind of brushes her off. For whatever reason, he's not wanting to hang out or talk to her as much. Why is he avoiding her? And then, of course, we get Nora looking in from the other side of the mirror. That idea that she's a prisoner now, I thought it's really interesting. And I won't show it to you because it's a little into the spoiler territory. But they do have a discussion, Walter and Nora, talking about what to do. And I found it was pretty interesting. Here's a sketch for an observatory that one of them wants to make up in the trees, because if they can get up higher, they may be able to see a way out. Keep in mind, this version of the characters don't know the rest of the world's destroyed. They just think they're trapped in a bubble, and they're going to try to look out and see what they can see of the world, and this will also let them know if there's any other buildings. So that should be pretty interesting there. Anyway, they're all eating and partying, and some of them start talking about, hey, what if we had a farm to grow our own food? And then they say, well, why would we do that? We can get anything we ever wanted. And they're like, do we really want to trust that the aliens are going to just keep giving us everything we want? We should be self-sufficient. And Walter's up for this idea and says, hey, that's a good idea. We need something to do anyway. It can be a hobby. And Sarah leaves saying she's going to go smoke. And Walter follows her. And this is actually a scene that I really do like, where she's sitting on this dock, and you get to see all their boats and jet skis and stuff. And she actually calls Walter out and says, why do you not want to leave? And that's really cool that she noticed that. She can kind of get into people's heads. She's a consultant. And she says, I don't know what's up with you, Walter, but for whatever reason, you are fine staying here, and the rest of us want to get out. And there's a few other pages. We do get a little more with Ryan. Ryan has a really interesting conversation with Reggie, and there is that scene with Nora. I won't spoil either of those scenes, but some talking with some interesting revelations. Now, like I said, this isn't the book where a whole bunch happens, but it really starts to put a bunch of stuff in perspective and get you thinking, you know, what can Walter do? What can the characters do? And how's that going to come into head? And this issue also really does push the idea that Ryan is sort of a weird piece that doesn't fit in right. And I am waiting for that reveal. What will that be? when it all comes down. Now, like I said, there's like 3 or 4 people in this book that want to build their own buildings, and I'm kind of curious if that will come into play next issue, if Walter will let them do that. You know, if he doesn't, then it would kind of look weird. Why did they get the one building? But if he does, the whole landscape might get littered with buildings. It would kind of be interesting to see what happens, and also the architecture schematics were pretty cool, but I am curious what's going to happen there. So yeah, the first issue in this new set was the new status quo. Here we're seeing how the pieces might move, and then after this we have 4 more issues, and I think it's going to get pretty big and pretty crazy, and I can't wait. So not the biggest issue, but a pretty good issue, and I really did like it. And boy, another good cover. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Nice House on the Lake playlist. If you want to see my reviews for the first 7 issues in this series, you can find them there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.